They say the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. We've all heard it, haven't we? It's a nice, neat little phrase. Something you might see on a motivational poster or in a fortune cookie. But how often do we truly internalize it? How often do we actually believe in the profound power hidden within that first, seemingly insignificant action? We live in a world obsessed with grand gestures, overnight successes, and monumental leaps. We want the finish line, the trophy, the destination, and we want it now. The process, the slow, methodical, often tedious journey, gets overlooked. We become so fixated on the mountain peak that we forget to look down at the small, sturdy stone right in front of us, the one we need to step on first. We dream of writing the novel, but can't bring ourselves to write the first sentence. We fantasize about running a marathon, but postpone the first jog around the block. We envision a life of financial freedom, but delay saving that first dollar. The gap between where we are and where we want to be can feel like an impassable chasm, a void so vast and intimidating that we're paralyzed into inaction. We tell ourselves the goal is too big, the effort required is too great, and the time it will take is too long. So we wait. We wait for the perfect moment, for a sudden burst of motivation, for a sign from the universe. But the perfect moment never arrives because it doesn't exist. The only thing that exists is this moment, right now, and the small, simple choice you can make within it. What if the secret to achieving those monumental dreams wasn't a giant leap of faith, but a consistent series of small, deliberate steps? What if the path to transformation wasn't about a sudden, dramatic change, but about the cumulative effect of tiny, everyday habits? This story is about that very idea. It is a reminder that the most significant changes in our lives often do come from a single heroic effort, but from the quiet, unglamorous, and relentless power of taking one small step and then another, and then another. There once was a young man named Leo who lived in a small, quiet town nestled in a valley. The town was his whole world, a comfortable and familiar place. But looming over the valley, casting a long shadow every afternoon, was a colossal mountain known to everyone as the Silent Giant. Its peak was perpetually shrouded in mist, a mysterious and unconquered realm that fueled local legends and cautionary tales. The elders spoke of treacherous cliffs, unpredictable weather, and strange beasts that roamed its upper slopes. No one from the town had ever reached the summit in living memory. The very idea was considered foolish, a reckless pursuit of a meaningless goal. Leo, however, was different. From a young age, he would sit by his window and stare at the mountain, not with fear, but with a deep, unshakable curiosity. He didn't see a fearsome monster. He saw a challenge, a mystery waiting to be unraveled. While his friends were content with their lives in the valley, Leo felt a pull, a calling from the misty peak. He dreamed of the view from the top, of seeing the world from a perspective no one else had ever known. His friends would laugh at him. Leo, the dreamer, they'd call him. Why would you want to climb that useless pile of rock? There's nothing up there but cold and wind. Everything you need is right here. His parents, though more loving, were equally concerned. It's dangerous, son. His father would say, the mountain is not meant for us. Be content with what you have. But Leo's desire wasn't about discontentment. It was about potential. He looked at the mountain and saw a reflection of his own untapped abilities. The sheer scale of it was overwhelming. When he thought about the entire climb, from the base to the misty summit, his heart would pound with anxiety. It seemed impossible, a task for a giant, not a boy from a small town. The chasm between his dream and his reality felt immense. For months, he was paralyzed by the magnitude of his ambition. He would plan elaborate routes, study crude maps, and imagine all the equipment he would need, but he never took the first step. The dream remained a dream, beautiful but distant. One evening, as Leo sat sketching the mountain in his notebook, his grandmother, a wise old woman with eyes that held the depth of a calm lake, sat down beside him. She looked at his drawing, then at the mountain outside, and finally at the troubled expression on his face. "You're thinking about the peak, aren't you?" she asked softly. Leo nodded, feeling a familiar wave of frustration. "It's just too big, Grandma. I don't know where to even start. Every time I think about the whole journey, I feel small and weak." His grandmother smiled, a gentle, knowing smile. She picked up a small, smooth stone from a bowl on the table. "When you build a stone wall," she said, placing the stone in his palm, "you don't worry about the final rampart. You don't try to lift the entire wall at once. You find one good stone. You make sure it's solid and you place it perfectly. Then you find another. That's all." She closed his fingers over the stone. "Don't think about the summit. That's for the mountain to worry about. You just have to worry about the next step in front of you. Can you do that? Can you just take one step?" Her words were simple, yet they landed in Leo's mind like a seed in fertile soil. One step. It sounded so manageable, so possible. The anxiety that had been a constant companion began to recede, replaced by a flicker of clarity. He wasn't being asked to conquer the mountain tomorrow. He was just being asked to take a single step. The next morning, before the sun had even risen, Leo woke up. He didn't pack a large bag or announce a grand departure. He simply put on his sturdy boots, filled a small water skin, and walked to the edge of the town where the path began to incline. It locked up, not at the misty peak, but at the ground, just a few feet ahead. He took a breath, and then he took one step, and then another. He walked for only an hour that day, not even reaching the true base of the mountain, just a little way up the initial trail. When he returned, no one even noticed. He'd been gone. He didn't feel like a hero. He just felt a little bit tired. But as he went to sleep that night, a quiet satisfaction settled over him. E had done Italiano. He had started. This became his new routine. Every morning, he would wake up and walk. He never set an epic goal for the day. His only objective was to go a little farther than the day before, to take a few more steps up the path. Some days, he felt strong and energetic, and his few more steps would turn into an hour of steady climbing. On other days, he was tired or the weather was poor, and he would walk for just 15 minutes before turning back. He didn't judge himself on those days. He simply acknowledged that he had still taken his steps. He kept his grandmother's words in his heart. Just find one good stone and place it perfectly. Each step was a stone. Each day was another stone added to the wall of his journey. The townsfolk slowly started to notice his daily ritual. At first, they were dismissive. "There goes Leo on his pointless walk," they'd mutter. But as weeks turned into months, the dismissiveness turned into a grudging respect. They saw his consistency. They saw that he wasn't deterred by rain, or wind, or the quiet mockery of his peers. Leo, for his part, hardly noticed their changing attitudes. He was too focused, not on the peak, but on the process. He became intimately familiar with the lower slopes of the mountain. He learned which rocks were loose, where the wildflowers grew, and how the light changed on the path throughout the day. He was no longer a stranger to the silent giant. He was becoming its acquaintance. His body changed. The short walks became longer hikes. His legs grew stronger, his lungs more powerful. The path that had once left him breathless was now just a warm-up. He began to reach new landmarks, a gnarled old oak tree, a small waterfall, a ridge that offered the first real view back down into the valley. With each small milestone, his confidence grew. He was no longer the boy who dreamed of climbing a mountain. He was the man who was climbing it. The mountain itself remained a formidable challenge. There were days of intense struggle. He faced rockfalls that blocked his path, sudden storms that forced him to take shelter, and moments of profound loneliness and doubt where the voices of the valley echoed in his mind. In those moments, when the temptation to turn back was strongest, he will close his eyes, and remember his grandmother's advice. He would ignore the overwhelming scale of what remained and focus only on what he needed to do right now. Just one more step, he would tell himself, just get to that next ledge. Just place one more stone. Years passed. Leo was no longer a boy. He was a man, lean and weathered, with a quiet strength about him. His daily journey was no longer a secret ritual, but a known fact of life in the valley. The children of the town would now watch him go, not with mockery, but with a sense of wonder. He had climbed higher than anyone thought possible, venturing into the parts of the mountain that had only existed in legends. He knew the silent giant's moods, its secrets, its dangers, and its beauty. He had seen sights that no one from his town had ever laid eyes on. He had walked through clouds and felt the silence of the high-altitude air. Then one day, a clear, crisp morning, after a cleansing rain, Leo set out as usual. He had been climbing for a very long time, and the air was thin and cold. The vegetation was gone, replaced by stark, beautiful rock. He followed a ridge, placing one foot carefully in front of the other, his mind calm and focused. He climbed over a final, large boulder, and then there were no more steps to take upwards. He stood still, breathing in the sharp, pure air. The mist that had perpetually shrouded the peak was gone. He was standing on the summit. All around him, the world unfolded in a breathtaking panorama. He could see his little valley, a tiny, perfect patch of green far below. He could see other valleys, other mountains, and in the far distance, a shimmering line that he realized was the sea. The silence was absolute, a profound peace that filled him completely. There was no grand fanfare, no cheering crowd. There was only him, the sky, and the world laid out at his feet. In that moment, understood, the goal was never the summit. The summit was just a place. The true achievement was the journey itself. It was in every single step he had taken. Every morning he had woken up with purpose. Every small obstacle he had overcome. It was the person he had become through the act of climbing. When Leo returned to the valley, he was not the same man who had left. He walked with a quiet confidence, an aura of peace. He didn't boast of his achievement. In fact, he rarely spoke of it unless asked. But something in the town had shifted. The mountain was no longer a symbol of the impossible. It was now a symbol of what could be achieved. It was a testament to Leo's journey. The young people of the town started to look at their own lives differently. They saw that the big dreams, becoming a master craftsman, building a new business, creating a beautiful garden, weren't so different from Leo's mountain. They were daunting, yes, but they could be broken down. They could be started with a single step. One boy, inspired by Leo, began to spend an extra 10 minutes each day practicing his woodwork. A young woman started setting aside 1 coin from her earnings every week to save for a shop of her own. They had learned the mountain's lesson. They stopped waiting for the perfect moment and started creating it, one small, consistent action at a time. Leo's story became the new legend of the valley, but it wasn't a cautionary tale. It was a story of hope. A story about the profound, world-changing power of small, deliberate steps. It's Thug, Tim, and it teaches us that we don't need to move mountains. We just need to be willing to take the first step and then the next, and trust that the journey itself will transform us long before we ever reach the peak. The greatest changes in our lives and in the world are not born from singular, cataclysmic events, but from the accumulated weight of countless, seemingly insignificant choices. It's the daily practice, the consistent effort, the single stone laid perfectly, day after day, that builds the wall, that climbs the mountain, that changes a life.